huh? You can see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So Alberta's asked me to go over a bit of the food sector plan, or framework as we called it. A little bit of redundancy from what she gave. Just it'll be helpful in setting up the slides that follow. Again, the purpose of the CDRT exercise was to envision how a catastrophic event could create an opportunity for accelerated transition to ways of living that address the core problems that are dimming people's hope for the future. Problems like climate change, environmental degradation, dwindling resource base, wealth concentration, so forth. This, again, is this image that's projected of what will happen to the Central Valley in the event of a California megaflood. One thing that Alberta didn't say is, whereas historically these floods have happened about every 100 to 200 years, there's a scientific team that took a look at what to expect in the future with climate change. And the current projection is that they will happen every 35 to 50 years. And the degree of flooding will also likely intensify. She mentioned that it will create a lake 300 miles long, 20 miles wide, $1 trillion property damage, 25% of all buildings in California will suffer major flood damage, at least 1.5 million evacuees. Huge portion of the nation's food crop will be taken out. Power, water, and sewage systems will be down, completely down. And then what become the assumptions for our county for which we were creating this scenario plan? First of all, it will mean a loss of a great deal of our food supply that comes from California, which means greatly diminished food for the local people as a starting point. And then you have 15,000 evacuees that arrive over a roughly 1 month period on top of that. And the conclusion is that the emergency services would be overwhelmed statewide. They won't only come to Lane County. There'll be dispersal throughout the adjacent states to California. So in conclusion, we would be in a situation in which there would be essentially no emergency food available. We are, what is the term yo-yo, you're on your own? The problem then becomes how to take near starving evacuees who are without emergency services from virtually nothing to a thriving new type of society within a few years. This is a grand project to wrap one's mind around. And she's mentioned that this would be driven by the internalization of certain core values. I'll skip over that. In relation to the common questions that Amadevi mentioned, I'd like to just mention the kind of shifts that would need to take place, or would be our ambition to have take place in farming practices in order to bring about a systems change. Among other things, there would be a shift from monocropping to polycropping, production largely for outside markets for export to production for local markets, a shift from production of cash crops to production for self-reliance and supplying local agro-industries to ensure that there are value-added opportunities to build the local economy. Next, a shift from reliance on industrial farming that makes huge use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides to farming that makes use of integrated farming practices and emphasizes organic growing methods. And then a shift from the use of large-size farm machinery designed for monocropping to appropriately scaled machinery that minimizes petroleum use. Something like 11%, I believe, of all greenhouse gases now are produced in agriculture. And then finally, from farming enterprises that are either family enterprises or corporate enterprises to cooperative farms. And making these shifts would not be easy because there is a huge amount in the society that is built into place that supports the existing paradigm. Some of the things that we would come up against are land use codes, established marketing practices, existing soil vitality or lack thereof, really, established agricultural technologies that all farmers are schooled in and practiced in, the organization and housing of agricultural labor, farm financing policy practices, and many more. All of these form a framework around the agricultural paradigm, the industrial agricultural paradigm that would have to change. But there would be significant benefits of making the transition. And those would include a sharp reduction in agricultural greenhouse gases. We should be able to virtually eliminate greenhouse gases coming from farm production, the revitalization of depleted agricultural soils, improved ecological conditions in farm areas, which are now highly toxic, increased revenue flowing through local communities. The money made off of farming wouldn't be siphoned off, drained off into the global economy, but would flow locally. There'd be greater regional food security, a revitalization of rural community life, and more local availability of raw materials for agro-industries, industries that use food for value-added products.